Let them disrespect you, then destroy them completely. This isn't a motivational phrase. This is an operational sequence. This is the Machiavellian protocol on power. The moment you encounter disrespect, you're standing at a critical decision point. The weak path is immediate reaction, the wounded animal lashing out at air. The strong path, the path of the prince, is the path of the void. You don't destroy an enemy by fighting them. You destroy them by becoming a mirror, so vast and cold that they freeze when they see themselves reflected. We've been told that respect must be earned. This is a lie told by the powerless to keep others powerless. In the actual world, the dark mechanics that operate beneath society's polite surface, respect is not earned. It's enforced. It's a boundary drawn in silence and consequence. When someone disrespects you, they're not simply being rude. They're invading. They're crossing a territorial border of your psychological space to test your defenses. Most of you fail this test instantly. You defend yourself. You explain. You get angry. You've just handed them complete control. What we're going to do is burn that old operating system down and rebuild it as a fortress. We're going to explore the mechanics of total psychological annihilation. We're not seeking an apology. We're engineering the complete collapse of their will to challenge you. To destroy the disrespect, you must first understand its physics. Disrespect is energy. It's a kinetic force projected in your direction. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be destroyed, only transferred. When a toxic person insults you, interrupts you, or belittles you, they're transferring chaotic energy into your system. They're the archer, you're the target. The moment you react, whether you scream, cry, or debate, you've accepted the arrow. You've absorbed the kinetic force. You're now carrying their chaos. You become the vessel for their insecurity. They feel lighter because they've vomited their poison into you. And you feel heavier because you've swallowed it. The Machiavellian approach is not to catch the arrow. It's to become the wind. You must understand that the person disrespecting you is operating under a delusion of significance. They believe they exist. They believe their words have mass. Your job is to prove to them through a terrifying absence of reaction that they're hallucinating. When you attempt to communicate with someone who disrespects you, you're validating their reality. You're saying, "I hear you, therefore you matter." This is the fatal error. In the 48 laws of power, we learn that isolation can be dangerous, but in the context of a toxic dynamic, isolation is a weapon. You must isolate them from their own cause and effect. Imagine a man screaming into a canyon. He expects an echo. He relies on the echo to know how loud he is. Now imagine he screams, and the canyon remains silent. The physics of his world break. He screams louder. Still silence. Panic sets in. Is he dead? Is he mute? This is the psychological state you must induce. We call this ontological shock. You're not punishing them for what they did. You're making them question if they even did it. You're severing the link between their action and the world's reaction. The toxic mind is a vampire. It feeds on supply. Supply is any emotion you offer. Rage is supply. Tears are supply. Even a logical explanation is supply, because it shows you care enough to explain. To destroy them, you must starve the beast. But this is not passive. This is not ignoring them. Ignoring is an action. It requires effort. You're not ignoring. You're deleting. You're looking at them and seeing pixels, not a person. You're witnessing a glitch in the simulation. This requires a fundamental shift in your internal architecture. You must move from being a participant in the drama to being the director of the play. The director doesn't argue with the actors. The director cuts the scene. How do we execute this? We move from the defensive to the offensive, using a technique I call the mirror of the void. When they disrespect you, they're projecting a shadow. They tell you that you're lazy, stupid, or unworthy. They want you to hold this shadow. They want you to say, "No, I'm not." By saying no, you've accepted the premise of the debate. You're now on trial, and you're the defendant. The mirror of the void doesn't defend. It amplifies. It agrees with the absurdity to such a degree that the insult collapses under its own weight. Consider a scenario where a colleague says, "You really dropped the ball on this project. I expected better." The victim instinctively defends, saying, "Well, actually, I didn't get the files until Tuesday." This is weakness. But the architect, you, pauses. You look at them with the heavy-lidded gaze of a sphinx. You wait 4 seconds, an eternity in conversation. You say, "It is catastrophic, isn't it? I'm surprised the building is still standing." Do you see the shift? You didn't accept the blame, but you didn't fight the accusation. You took their little insult and blew it up into a cartoon. You agreed with the energy, not the fact. By calling it catastrophic, you're mocking their intensity. You're signaling that you're so unbothered by their opinion that you can play with it. You've effectively pulled the chair out from under them while they were trying to sit down. This is the application of Machiavelli's concept of the lion and the fox. The lion strikes fear. The fox confuses. You must be the fox. When you agree with the manipulator, you steal their weapon. If they call you selfish and you say, "I am ruthlessly self-interested," yes, what's left for them to say? They cannot reveal you if you've already revealed yourself. They cannot drag a skeleton out of your closet if you're wearing the bones as armor. This technique destroys their narrative. They need you to be the villain who denies it, or the victim who cries about it. When you become the indifferent observer of your own flaws, you become untouchable. You effectively say, "Your opinion of me is none of my business." But let's go deeper. This is not just about words. It's about the geometry of power. Jeremy Bentham designed a prison called the panopticon. In the center was a watchtower. Around the perimeter were the cells. The prisoners could not see into the tower, but the tower could see into every cell. The prisoners had to assume they were always being watched, so they regulated their own behavior. To destroy a toxic person completely, you must become the watchtower. You must become the unseen eye. When they begin their disrespect, you stop engaging in the content of the conversation and start analyzing the process. You become a scientist observing a rat in a maze. You narrate their behavior back to them. When they shout, "You never listen to me," you lower your volume to a calm, clinical tone and say, "I notice your voice is elevated. You seem to be experiencing a high degree of emotional dysregulation right now." When they insult you, calling you pathetic, you reply, "That's a very specific adjective. It's interesting that your mind went to that word first. Does using it provide you with a sense of relief?" This is lethal. You're no longer a participant in the fight. You're the doctor diagnosing the patient. You've elevated yourself above them in the hierarchy. By analyzing their behavior, you're stripping it of its power. You're pointing at the strings of the puppet. The goal here is to induce shame without being overt. You're holding up a mirror to their loss of control. Nothing humiliates a narcissist more than being seen as hysterical or emotional while you remain perfectly icy. You're the marble statue. They're the pigeon flailing around you. The contrast destroys them. You must understand the biological imperative here. In the wild, the animal that loses control of its emotions is the animal that gets eaten. The alpha is the one with the lowest heart rate. By maintaining a flat, clinical tone, you're signaling biological superiority. You're signaling that they're not a threat. If a chihuahua barks at a wolf, the wolf doesn't bark back. The wolf doesn't explain itself. The wolf simply watches. The silence of the wolf is more terrifying than the bark of the dog. Be the wolf. In ancient China, emperors ruled by the mandate of heaven. If they lost it, the people were justified in revolting. In your life, you are the heaven. Your attention is the mandate. When you've been disrespected, you must institute immediate and total sanctions. But, and this is critical, you must not announce them. Do not say, "I'm not talking to you anymore." That's a teenager's threat. It implies you're waiting for them to fix it so you can talk again. It implies a negotiation. There is no negotiation with terrorists. No, you simply cease to exist for them in the capacity of a partner, friend, or ally. You become a ghost in the machine. You answer direct questions with binary answers. Yes, no, 2 p.m., I don't know. You remove all color, all nuance, all personality. You become an automated kiosk. They're used to the full, rich version of you, the one who laughs, argues, and shares. Suddenly, that person is dead. In their place is a bureaucracy. This drives the toxic mind into madness. They will try to provoke you just to see a spark of life. They will escalate. They will accuse you of being cold, robotic, unfeeling. Your response is simply, "I'm focused on efficiency." You do not explain that you're hurt. You do not explain that they caused this. You act as if this is your new factory setting. You have evolved. This is the scorched earth policy. If they want to invade your territory with disrespect, they will find no crops, no water, and no shelter. They will find only a barren wasteland where their emotional manipulation cannot take root. Machiavelli warned that a prince who is predictable is easily overthrown. If your enemy knows that insulting you makes you cry, they will insult you whenever they need a power boost. If they know that apologizing makes you forgive, they will apologize whenever they need a reset. You're a vending machine. To destroy them, you must break the algorithm. You must become randomly intermittent. One day they insult you and you laugh genuinely, as if they told a great joke. The next day they insult you and you stare at their forehead in silence for 30 seconds, then walk away without a word. The next day they insult you and you ask them to repeat it, pretending you didn't hear, forcing them to say the awkward thing twice. You're disrupting their dopamine reward loop. In psychology, this is called intermittent reinforcement, but we're using it in reverse. We're giving them intermittent punishment. They never know which version of the void they will encounter. The laughing demon, the silent wall, the analytical doctor. This creates anxiety in the oppressor. They start walking on eggshells. Notice the flip. Usually the victim walks on eggshells. Now the predator is unsure of the terrain. They stop attacking because the cost of calculation is too high. It's too exhausting to guess your reaction. They move on to easier prey. The human brain craves patterns. When you deny them a pattern, you induce cognitive fatigue. They will literally become tired of trying to figure you out. This is the moment their will breaks. Sometimes the most destructive thing you can do is to invite them in, only to reveal the room is empty. This is the art of the soft invitation. When they're desperate for a reaction, they may try to bait you with a false truce, saying, "I'm sorry I snapped. I've just been under so much stress." The old you would say, "It's okay. I understand. Let's move on," signaling submission. The Machiavellian you says, "Stress is a difficult variable to manage." You acknowledge the statement, but you do not grant absolution. You do not say, "It's okay." It is not okay. You do not say, "I forgive you." You simply note the data point. This denies them the closure they seek. They want the reset button so they can start the cycle of abuse again. By refusing to say the magic words, you leave the tension hanging in the air. You force them to carry the weight of their own behavior. You're not holding a grudge. You're simply declining to clean up their mess. Let them sit in the discomfort. Let the silence stretch until it rings in their ears. In that silence, their power evaporates. They realize that their stress is their problem, and your peace is your property. This brings us to the concept of the dead drop. In espionage, a dead drop is a location used to pass items between two people without them ever meeting. In this context, the dead drop is how you handle information. Stop giving them the coordinates to your soul. Stop telling them your dreams, your fears, your plans. Information is ammunition. Every time you tell someone who disrespects you what you're afraid of, you're handing them a loaded gun and pointing it at your own head. When they ask, "What are you thinking?" you say, "I'm organizing my thoughts." When they ask, "Why are you so quiet?" you say, "I'm enjoying the silence." You give them nothing. You become a surface without a handle. You become Teflon. Nothing sticks. This is the discipline of the Sphinx. The Sphinx does not answer riddles. The Sphinx poses them. You must become the riddle. Ultimately, destroying them is an inside job. It requires you to kill the need for external validation. Why does disrespect hurt? Because you value their assessment. You're looking at yourself through their eyes. You must crush this habit. You must build an internal citadel where your value is determined by your own code, your own discipline, and your own ambition. When a king walks through a village and a peasant throws mud at him, the king does not stop to wrestle the peasant. The king does not explain to the peasant why he is royalty. The king wipes the mud off and continues walking to his palace. The peasant is irrelevant to the king's destiny. You must view these toxic people as peasants in the kingdom of your life. Their background noise, their static. Their disrespect is not a judgment on you. It's a confession of their own low status. High-value people do not need to belittle others to feel tall. Only the small need to stand on the necks of others. When you truly internalize this, that their disrespect is a symptom of their inferiority, you will not feel anger. You will feel a cold, distant pity. And nothing, absolutely nothing, destroys a narcissist faster than being pitied. Anger makes them feel powerful. Pity makes them feel pathetic. Look at them with that pity. A slight tilt of the head. A faint, sad smile. As if you're watching a three-legged dog try to run. Your eyes say it must be exhausting to be you. That gaze is the nuclear option. It's the final nail in the coffin of their power over you. We must also discuss the extinction burst. This is a term from behavioral psychology. When you stop reinforcing a behavior, it doesn't just stop immediately. It gets worse first. Think of a vending machine. You put your money in, press the button, and nothing comes out. Do you walk away? No. You press the button again. You mash it. You shake the machine. You get angry. Only when the machine is definitively broken do you give up. When you apply these techniques, the void, the silence, the clinical detachment, the toxic person will experience an extinction burst. They will escalate. They will try to make you jealous. They will start smear campaigns. They will scream louder. They will try to trigger your old wounds. Most people fail here. They think, "Oh no, it's getting worse. I should go back to the old way." No. The fact that it's getting worse is proof that it's working. The machine is being shaken because the machine is not dispensing the supply. You must hold the line. You must be the obsidian wall. Let them shake the machine. Let them scream. Let them exhaust themselves. This is the siege warfare of the soul. They have limited energy reserves. You, operating from a place of stoic detachment, have infinite energy. You're not burning fuel. You're simply existing. They're burning fuel, trying to get a reaction. Eventually, they will run out of gas, and when they do, the silence that follows will be permanent. Let's talk about the reconstruction of your identity. You've likely been trained to be nice. Nice is a slave virtue. Nice is the quality of a doormat. I don't want you to be nice. I want you to be kind, but dangerous. There's a difference. A rabbit is harmless. It's not virtuous because it cannot do harm. A warrior who chooses peace is virtuous because he has the capacity for destruction, but chooses not to use it. You must develop the capacity for destruction. This means you must be willing to let the relationship die. This is the hardest pill to swallow. You're holding on because you hope they will change. You're in love with a potential version of them that does not exist. You're dating a ghost. You must perform the funeral rites for the relationship in your mind. Accept that the person standing in front of you, the one who disrespects you, mocks you, and uses you, is the only version of them that exists. Once you accept this, you're free. You're no longer waiting. You're no longer hoping. You're operating in the real world. And in the real world, you do not tolerate parasites. You remove them. This removal doesn't always mean physical distance, though that's preferred. It means emotional eviction. They no longer pay rent in your head. You evict them from your inner sanctum. They're now just a neighbor you ignore, a glitch in the background code. Let us refine the tactical protocol. We've discussed the verbal approach, but we must also discuss nonverbal dominance. Communication is 7% words, 38% tonality, and 55% body language. When they disrespect you, your body betrays you. You flinch. You look down. You cross your arms. You must train your body to be a fortress. When the insult lands, you must lean back, not forward. Leaning forward is aggressive or pleading. Leaning back is evaluative. It says, I am comfortable. You are entertaining me. You must slow your blinking. Rapid blinking signals anxiety. Slow blinking signals boredom. You must breathe through your nose, deep into your diaphragm. This lowers your cortisol and keeps your voice resonance deep. When you speak, do not use upward inflection at the end of your sentences. That sounds like a question. That sounds like you're seeking approval. You must use downward inflection. You're making statements. I will not tolerate that. Not I will not tolerate that, okay? Drop the okay. You're not asking for their permission to have a boundary. You're informing them of the boundary's existence. Consider the concept of the double bind. This is a technique used by master manipulators, but you can use it for defense. A double bind is a situation where no matter what the other person does, they lose. When they're being toxic, you can place them in a double bind. If they're giving you the silent treatment, you don't chase them. You enjoy the peace. You go out. You watch a movie. You thrive. Outcome A. They continue the silence, and you have a peaceful life. You win. Outcome B. They break the silence because they see you're happy, and they realize their weapon failed. You win. If they're screaming at you, outcome A. You walk away. You protect your peace. You win. Outcome B. They stop screaming to keep you in the room, forcing them to regulate their behavior. You win. You structure the interaction so that their toxicity yields zero return on investment. The only way they can get a return is by treating you with respect. We're Pavlovian training them. We're rewiring their brain to associate disrespecting you with absolute boredom and failure. Do not underestimate the power of the pause. The pause is the void. It is the abyss. When they ask a rude question like, "Why are you still single?" or "Why don't you make more money?" do not answer. Just pause. Look at them. Let the question hang in the air. Let it rot. Let the smell of their own rudeness fill the room. The silence forces them to hear the echo of their own stupidity. Often they will start stuttering, explaining, or retracting. I was just curious. You force them to backpedal without saying a word. This is the power of the heavy silence. You must also master the art of fogging. Fogging is a defensive technique where you act like a fog bank. When you throw a stone into a fog bank, what happens? Does the fog crack? No. Does it throw the stone back? No. It simply absorbs it. There's no impact. When they attack you with "you're lazy," you say, "I can see why you might think that." You're not agreeing that you're lazy. You're agreeing that they might think that. You're validating their perception without validating the fact. You're a failure. That's certainly one way to look at it. You're going to regret this. Time will tell. You offer no resistance. A bully needs resistance. They need something to push against. If you're a wall, they can pound you. If you're fog, they swing right through you and dislocate their shoulder. Be the fog. Be shapeless, formless, like water. There's a dark truth you must confront. You might be addicted to the disrespect. You might be addicted to the cycle, the highs and the lows, the make-up dynamics, the "I'm sorry" gifts. This is a biochemical addiction to the peptide hormones your body releases during emotional trauma. To destroy them, you must detox yourself. You must learn to find peace interesting. Many of you find peace boring. You interpret the lack of conflict as a lack of passion. You must rewire this. Peace is not boredom. Peace is power. Peace is the platform upon which you build an empire. You cannot build a skyscraper during an earthquake. You need a stable foundation. The toxic person is the earthquake. You must choose the skyscraper over the thrill of the tremor. So here's your protocol for the next 24 hours. The detailed battle plan. First, the silence. When provoked, delay your response by 5 full seconds. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Watch their face change as they wait. That silence is you gathering your power. Second, the agreement. If they insult you, agree with the possibility. Tell them they might be right. Then go back to work. You're incompetent. I have my days. And turn back to your screen. You've declared the conversation over. Third, the audit. If they escalate, ask clinical questions like, "Are you trying to hurt my feelings, or are you just venting? Is this strategy working for you? You seem very invested in my reaction. Why is that?" Make them the subject of the study. Fourth, the ghost. Remove all non-essential emotional data and become a black and white screen. No jokes, no stories, no vulnerability, just data. And finally, the internal audit. Ask yourself, why does this person's opinion matter? If they're not someone you would trade lives with, why are you trading emotions with them? If you wouldn't ask them for financial advice, why are you accepting their criticism of your worth? Do not expect them to change. They're programmed to be destroyers. You must be programmed to be the architect. You're building a life where their opinion is not currency. It's counterfeit. This path is not for the weak. It's lonely at the top of the mountain, but the air is clean, and you can see everything. The sheep huddle together for warmth. The wolf walks alone. The disrespect was your wake-up call. It was the universe telling you that you've outgrown your environment. You've outgrown these people. Do not hate them. Thank them. They've shown you exactly who not to be. They've pushed you into your own power. They tried to bury you, but they didn't know you were a seed. Now grow. Grow so large that your shadow eclipses their entire world. When you finally ascend, when you finally look down from the heights of your own self-mastery, you will see them for what they truly are. small, frightened children playing with matches. And you will realize that you never needed to destroy them. You only needed to destroy the part of you that needed them. Once that part is dead, they cease to exist. They become background characters in the movie of your life. And you become the star, the director, and the critic. This is the end of their reign. This is the beginning of yours. The throne is empty. Step up and take it. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications because we're just getting started with these truth-based power strategies. Comment below which technique you'll apply first. The void? The clinical analysis? The fog? Let's build a community of architects, not victims.